tax compliance. Mr. Speaker, Right Honorable Speaker, the tax refund account has been abused in recent years. In the last 8 years, a study revealed that 29.1 billion Ghana cedis had accrued to the tax refund account, with only 12.5 billion Ghana cedis, representing 43% of the total accrued amount, being used for tax refund purposes. Mr. Speaker, the study also revealed that 16.6 billion Ghana cedis, representing 57% of the total amount accumulated in the tax refund account, was misapplied. Mr. Speaker, which is a total violation of the Revenue Administration Act, Act 915, and the Public Financial Management Act. Instructively, Mr. Speaker, there were virtually no tax refund arrests over the period. Mr. Speaker, and therefore, we are reducing the current tax refund ceiling by 2 percentage points from 6% to 4% of total revenue, as defined in Section 69 of the Revenue Administration Act, Act 915. Mr. Speaker, by reducing the ceiling on the tax refund from 6% to 4%, Right Honorable Speaker, we have saved the taxpayer 3.8 billion Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, this amount is enough to close the revenue shortfalls from the removal of the e-levy and the betting levy. Mr. Speaker, we will provide a cedi equivalent of $279 million as a revolving fund for the Ghana Gold Board to be able to purchase and export at least 3 tons of gold per week from small-scale miners. Mr. Speaker, we have allocated 13.85 billion Ghana cedis for Big Push project. Mr. Speaker, we have allocated 13.85 billion Ghana cedis for the Big Push program. Mr. Speaker, an amount of 499.8 million Ghana cedis has been allocated for the non-academic fee policy for all first-year students in public tertiary institutions under the No Fee Stress initiatives. Mr. Speaker, we have allocated an amount of 292.4 million Ghana cedis to commence the distribution of free sanitary pads to female students in primary and secondary schools. Mr. Speaker, we have allocated again an amount of 242.5 million Ghana cedis to support the victim of Akosombo Dam spillage. Right Honorable Speaker, we have also allocated an amount of 200 million Ghana cedis to support the victim of tidal wave disaster that recently displaced resident in certain part of K2 South constituency. Mr. Speaker, the overarching concern about free secondary education has been its quality and the absence of dedicated sources of financing. Mr. Speaker, let me take this again. The overarching concern about free secondary education has been its quality and the absence of a dedicated sources of funding. His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama has resolved the funding challenges by uncapping the GET fund.
Betting has been a concern for the Ghanaian youth for some time now. They have been talking about a 10% tax that has been imposed on winnings of lottery. during the presentation of the 2025 budget in Parliament yesterday by Dr. Casey Latoforsen, the Finance Minister. Some taxes were scrubbed off, including the betting tax, e-levy tax, COVID-19 emission tax, and a couple of them, about 5 of them, were scrubbed off completely. We took to the streets of Accra to engage with youth of the country, people who stake their bets on football, and to find out, what they also want to say regarding, what the finance minister or this administration did on a betting tax.
That's to the bet taxes that was shocked off. It's a welcome development because, one, winning a bet is like a battlefield. You understand? Sometimes we have money to stake, like winning, like to be taken off. Taxes and all that. So to me, it's a very good move. You understand? It's a very good move. I really like it because bet is not really easy. So that's my take. Yes, I staked. But there were some missed chances, but I was able to recover what I staked and add some little to myself. So, and the game was a very fantastic game against Liverpool, Paris Saint-Germain. The all odds was on Liverpool to leave the victor score, but at the end of the day, they fall short. I think they'll bounce back next season. What I was doing on my phone, I was equally betting online. Maybe we can get something from that. No, coming here just for a while, I'm out of job, so it's just like another. It's like another avenue for me to see maybe I can get some.
Ghana MPP for nyamyenim no kure no ma chichire nsa gu yachi ache. Na wo ahwe sebe tamia oku. Wo ba lotto ye twa every day be twa lotto 7 times. Enya fine. Adwuma ni wo man ni mu. Na wo ye twa lotto 7 times was at tax also. Musa di levy aba. Tobut ni ade Mahama time na wo na magu ni nyina. Chete me na me hu de ompeso mo kire aban bia ba ni trimupo ene se youth no obebie bie enwuma ma youth na nya bia ye na se be kro no ne niema nketenkete bi won ma eto atwa mo ba no amie bie sa enwuma no ena mo sa de tax sa be to ye tire so on de atie no hwese me ma twa bet wo de tax atoso bet na dimi no wo man percentage bia wo be nyam kopon boa na me hyehyɛ de ma adwene calculate na efa na kakra na me manya no wo sa se wo te tax so sebe wa wo hwa asem we on say sebe entasmu.
Oh yeah, na kasa de wakasa se wa yi taxes no ba mi nim se bia yem pass e parliament em pass budget ntina enra mi se mi twa bet but mi twa ya di mi di enso yate.
Oh who try?
Oh man twa bebre na ska ni me we first mobile money wallet no na ya 6 cedis 99 pesos na wo na mi twa 3 first 14 ba ka ba kwa bebo na me ye early cash out me ye chairman 30 cedi kra binance charge first 1 cedi free. Ya panti at the end on your fast no win free na affect boys pa affect boy because my brothers na ninji okrum. Yeah, my brothers na ninji okrum kra because o check me bet in the kra na enra beti am mo bebre bia ba hwe bet na no ani chairman hwe no ani but me.
You heard some Ghanaians on the streets of Accra responding to the government's promise to scrap betting tax as part of its fiscal policy measures in order to ease the burden on Ghanaians. So this is Inside Pages on Metro Television. My name is Aldo Moore. I have my guests who've joined me this morning to have a conversation on the back of the presentation of the 2025 budget statement and Ghana's economic policy, which was presented by the finance minister. Remember, he did that on behalf of the president, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. My guests are here, and Honorable Fred Agbenyo is a member of parliament for the Guan constituency. Good morning, sir. Thank you very much for joining us on Inside Pages.
Good morning, my brother.
Also joining us this morning is Dr. Eric Boachi Yadom. He's a financial economist, a senior lecturer, Banking and Finance Department, UPSA. Good morning, sir. Thank you so very much for joining us this morning.
Good morning, Mauro, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. Also joining us via Zoom, Professor Lord Mensah. He's an economist and a finance lecturer, University of Ghana Business School. Good morning, Prof. Thank you very much for joining us on Inside Pages.
Good morning, Mauro, and good morning to our viewers. Good morning also to my colleague panelists at the studio.
All right. And
the gentleman at the other side of the Zoom.
All right, that's Dr. Eric Boachi, and Honorable Fred Agbanyo. Okay, please feel free.
Prof. Lord Versa
Okay.
was my supervisor.
Oh, I see.
Both at MPhil and at my PhD.
That's interesting.
He literally have been with me throughout my academic journey.
Wow.
And I'm grateful to be having a discussion side by side with him this morning.
Wow, that's refreshing to know. That's refreshing to know. And Kwesi Kwarteng is also joined us. He's also joined us via Zoom. He's a member of the MPP's communications team and also a lawyer. Good morning, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, Moro, and good morning to my respected panelists, and of course, good morning to our cherished viewers as well. I hope we are doing well.
We're doing very well. We're doing very well. We're doing very, very well. So I'll start with Fred Agbanyo, and it's obvious. Kwesi Kwarteng. Well, Kwesi, he wants to know where you're hiding. Do you care to disclose your hideout?
No, I won't waive that question for now.
That's fine. This is for personal and security reasons. He won't tell you. Anyway, but Fred, I mean, when I say your government, I'm using that advisedly because it's supposed to be our government. But here is the NDC.
Our government.
Okay. So government has presented a budget. You are MP for the people of Guan. And I'm sure that prior to the presentation of the budget, you may have had some insight into exactly what it is that government intends to do with this budget. So in a nutshell, briefly speaking, what are you trying to communicate with this budget? What are you trying to achieve with this budget which has been presented? Briefly, before I go around the table.
Well, Moro, thank you very much. Let me say good morning to our cherished viewers, especially the good people of the Guan constituency. And let me say a special good morning to my Muslim friends who are fasting.
Yes.
I pray that even as they fast and pray, they should remember Mother Ghana, they should remember President Mahama, they should remember this country, that this country will move on. Well, do I have any special expectations prior to the presentation of the budget? Yes. Moro, for the first time in our political history, I think we started in 2020, where we decided that we're not going to just put a group of people together to sit in a room somewhere and develop a manifesto for us, and that we're going to engage all the stakeholders across the nation, seek their views and make sure that their views are, inputted into the manifesto. And so when we finish, we name it the People's Manifesto. Now, the thing about democracy is that it's a rule by the people, of the people, and for the people. And so if the emphasis on for the people, that means that for whatever policy initiatives you take, whatever decisions you take, it must be the one that, meets the aspirations and the needs of the people, what the people expect you to do as a leader. And so we went around the whole country. We spoke to everybody who matter before we came up with our manifesto. Now, another good thing is that we entered into a social contract with the people. We told them the things we want to do and the things they expect us to do when we come into office. And so when the minister was coming to Parliament to go and present the budget, my expectation is that the social contract that we entered into will be fulfilled. We'll take steps to try to meet that particular expectation. And so when the budget was presented, I wasn't surprised that if you listen across the whole country, you monitor on social media, even our political opponent, they had very, very little to say about the budget. Some way, somehow, everybody's applauding the budget that was presented because it's a budget that inspires hope. It's a budget that speaks to the main needs of the people of the country, and a budget that is seeking to ameliorate the pain and the suffering that the people of this country are going through. Naturally, the politicking will come in, and so you hear my colleagues throw one or two jabs here and there. It's allowed in democracy. But on the whole, I think that is a budget that meets the need. I just heard a gentleman you spoke to on air, and he made a very profound statement. These guys are unemployed. So they struggle and get small money, and because they don't have anything to do, they decide to go and bet. Now, when they bet and they lose their bet, government doesn't provide any cushion for them. They lose everything. Some of them may even go to bed without any food. Now, if they struggle and then they make a win, the government jumps in and says, oh, you have made a win. This one, you have to pay some percentage as tax. I think that will be very, very unfair to them. Because one would have thought that once you are gaining from them when they win, when they lose, you should also put a measure in place to cushion them. But that you don't do. They carry the entire burden. But when they win, And I think that for them, they are excited that at least that tax has been waived. Whatever the winner comes directly to their pocket, they're happy with it.
The question is, why are we encouraging them to bet? Aren't we making them lazy by motivating them with these kinds of policies?
You see, I've heard these arguments made time with that number. Then why don't you ban betting completely if you think that it's a lazy man's approach to, gaining a living? Then what you should be doing first and foremost is that, okay, no bet in the country. If the environment is not created, people will not take advantage of it. But as a country or as a society, don't create an environment. And when people are taking advantage of the environment you have created, now you come back and say they are being lazy and this. I don't think we are being fair to them. And in that case, what other alternative measures have we put in place? And who says that when you engage in betting, it means you will not do anything again? Do you know the number of people who really are betting in this country? And do you know the caliber of people who are betting in this country? Moro. I pray we can do some investigation and know those who are betting. You'll be surprised.
You mean I'll be shocked?
You'll be shocked. The number of people who are doing betting. People at high places, people, everybody, betting is quite addictive, right? And so once you get involved, it's just like the lotto things that they do and all that. It's quite addictive. So once you get involved, some of them are even like hobby, not necessarily because they are in need of money.
Yeah.
They are supporting their team. Their team is playing football. And apart from the screaming and shouting that some my team has won, I also want to gain something out of it. And so they will throw their money in there. If they win 5, they don't win, they don't have anything to lose. But the point I'm making essentially is that before you ask people not to do any of these things, show me what you have put in place for them to do. Because you go to our villages, most of the young people these days, my brother, it's sometimes very heartbreaking, right? Very energetic young people. All you see them doing, they are playing Spa, they are playing Ludo. Occasionally, the match time, they will take their phones and quickly do that. People go to farm with their phones and they are farming, and then when the bedtime comes, they go and bet. They leave their phone there and go and bet. People in the office, the police, security personnel, they are doing betting, but they are still working. People, civil servants, people are doing betting all over the place. So to argue that the betting is a substitute for real physical work, and that is promoting laziness, for me, I bet to differ. Oh, I'm landing on just that.
Yeah, no, I'll come back to you because there's a lot for you to talk about.
So for me, once again, let me commend the president, let me commend the finance minister and the current management team. I believe that the document they have put out as a budget is a one that is well received by all. My only prayer is that we are able to implement all the things we have stated in the budget I want to implement. Once we're able to do that, the certain Ghana and building the Ghana we all want will be seen and experienced by all.
All right, Mr. Kwesi Kwarteng, let me bring you in now. As you heard Mr. Fred, or Honorable Fred Agbenyo say, he says you've been dazed, you've been rendered speechless. You don't have anything to say about the budget. Do you have something to say about the budget? Before you come in, let me advertise these numbers. It's 0249-155-646, 0249-155-646. If you have any thoughts you want to share on this program, please feel free to send it to that number, 0249-155-646. So, Mr. Kwesi Kwarteng, your thoughts on the budget?
Yes, indeed. I will obviously be rendered speechless, and not only speechless, I'm also shocked, especially listening to the presentation that follows the budget statement that was read on the floor of Parliament, and also having listened to my good brother and first-time MP, the Honorable Fred Agbenyo, because my understanding is that it appears the only thing that this budget seems to prioritize and advertise the most has to do with the removal of the betting tax. Of course, I mean, in terms of within that context of it being a nuisance tax and the fact that it's removed, everybody applauds them. But I want him to understand that the solution to unemployment does not rest on the removal of betting tax. And as a government, they should be defining a more robust and detailed mechanisms and approach and comprehensive way of increasing employment, and not necessarily only reducing the whole conversation to betting tax. Because, if people are employed, there are chances that they are not even going to bet even in the first place. But come to think of it, if you remove betting tax of 10%, and then in the same budget, paragraph 478 of your own budget freezes net employment to the extent that you are telling us that within the public service in the year 2025, you are not going to employ anybody. I do not get the correlation. Again, you remove betting tax, but to the contrary, you terminate the employment of ordinary citizens who have had the opportunity to work within the public and the civil service. It baffles me that on one side, a government will be, singing praises for removing 10% betting tax, but on the other side, when they assume office, all what they did as an intervention to increasing employment was to terminate the appointments of people or ordinary Ghanaians that have had the opportunity to be gainfully employed. You see, let me also expose one other inconsistency in the same budget. On one part in the same budget, this government claims that they are going to review and amend the labor laws to be able to contain instances and situations where Ghanaians can run 3-shift systems within the public space. It's all part of their explanation of what constitutes a 24-hour economy. But the reverse is that within the same budget, they've also frozen employment within the public service. So the question I ask is that, on what basis will you freeze employment within the public service and within the same budget tell Ghanaians that you are going to amend the employment laws or the labor laws to be able to make sure that people run shift 3 times? Because at the end of the day, you will not even have
the finance minister has said it time and again. In fact, the presidential advisor to the president on matters of economy and finance, Setekwa, has also reiterated the point that there isn't a total freeze on employment and that there are key employments or there are some key services that government would need, like the health practitioners, the health workers, teachers, and so on. Those group of persons will not be affected by the freeze on employment. So there's no total.
I'm referring to paragraph 478 of their budget.
I know that. I've seen that, but I'm saying that they've had to come out to clarify that even though, yes, it's been stated, but it is not a total, it's not a blanket ban on employment.
But at least you agree with me that this government, whether you want to even give it, say, 5%, 10%, 50%, 20% ban, there has been some ban on employment. And I'm trying to juxtapose that with their promise to also amend the labor laws to be able to make sure that Ghanaians run shifts, 3 different shifts within the employment sector. So on one side, you are freezing certain aspects of job. On the other side, you are saying that you are going to open up for people to run shift system. It only presupposes, if you are doing a logical analysis, that at the end of the day, they are unable to even add anybody within the the employment scheme, because on one side you have frozen the employment space. They may offer explanations, but we all read what was put in. But you see, the principle that I'm advancing is that, first of all, this government should focus on creating jobs. If Fred Agbanyo today is telling us that the solution to job creation or the solution to unemployment has to do with the removal of betting tax, then it baffles me. And it's even the more reason why any person will not believe them for saying that they've not frozen employment. Recently, if you recall, at Malek Basentale, he recently mentioned that they are going to introduce 2 apps to aid people who are looking for employment. But the question I ask is that, how do you introduce apps for people to search for jobs that do not even exist in the first place? This budget failed to address pragmatic and comprehensive measures to create employment. So I want to land here, but what I'm essentially saying is that instead of the budget focusing only on, say, removing betting tax, and this government obviously saying that we should sing glorifying songs unto them, they should have as well also given us measures in creating more employment. Of course, the only measure they give us has to do with the 24-hour economy. But I'm saying that even within that 24-hour economy, the only proposal that they made was to go to amend the labor laws to be able to make sure that people run shift. At the same time, this same government has indicated in the same budget that they've frozen employment. So which people are going to run the shift? Is it the case that those who are already within the public space that are going to run the shift system, or they are going to recruit new people? And if the logic is that nurses and teachers, teachers are now going to run shifts, or nurses are now going to run shift. That is not new. They have always been doing it. The nursing, the security service, and all those other essential services, they have already been running shift.
All right.
So I think we need more clarity on that.
Okay, so I'll come back to you because I know that you have a lot more to say. But Dr. Ribache, Yadom, you are the technical expert. This is what you teach for a living. This is what you do for a living. What for you would you say are the key takeaways from this budget that you would want to highlight and talk about?
All right, thank you. So I want to look at the numbers that were put out. Number one, we have been made to believe that the economy is in crisis. So we're expecting numbers to support it. So the Minister of Finance gave us a benchmark that we can use to measure whether the economy is in crisis or not. So he talked about the ECOWAS microeconomic convergence. That has about 6 indicators: inflation, a budget deficit, central bank financing, gross external reserves, nominal exchange rate, and the public debt. Out of these 6 indicators that was put out by the minister, the previous administration was able to meet 3. And there's one of them which I don't think the government, this particular government, can even achieve. That is trying to keep inflation around below 5%. Even if you look at the inflation target that was put into the budget, it's around 11%. So if we take inflation out, which in the short term, which is not feasible, of 5%, we come to 5. So out of the 5 indicators, the previous administration met 3 of them. 3 over 5, that is 60%. It cannot be that the economy is in crisis, per the numbers that the Minister of Finance has put out. So what we know from the State of the Nation address and what has generally been sold to us, that the economy is in crisis, has been betrayed by the figures from the Finance Minister. This is to say that the government has no excuse to keep blaming the previous administration. Because if I've marked somebody over 60, as a lecturer myself, the person has passed. Now going forward, I see the budget as a contractional growth approach that the government intends to contract the economy. And I'll talk about the implication if we decide to contract. Let's first of all take it sector by sector. Starting with the industry, the administration is inheriting industry growth of about 7.1%. For the next 4 years, this government is telling us that he's going to reduce the growth in industry in 2025 to 3.8, 2026 6.2, 2027 5%, 2028 5.3. Why do you want to slow the economy or the industry, which we know that for some time it has not done well? In pre-COVID times, industry was growing around 6.4. Then the COVID came, that is 2019. 2020, it recorded some negative growth, through to about 2023. Then the industry has started picking up. Then you are telling us that you want to slow down. On the other hand, you are telling us we are going to support industry. So the numbers in the budget contradict what has been put out there as in whether in the form of campaign message or what in the form of what the government really want to do, because this is telling us your intention for the next 4 years. So I think that the government intends to shrink or reduce industry, which will affect job creation, So I don't know whether these figures need to be revised going forward, because it does not really tell us as in where the direction of the country. And in any case, if you come to even the overall growth, you have inherited overall growth in an economy of about 5.7%. And you are telling us that for the next 4 years, we should expect a growth this year about 4.4%. Then the following 2026, about 5%, 6%. You are trying to tell us that you want to grow the economy less than what you inherited. We know these are estimates; it may go up or down, but it tells us your vision for the country, But if we are intending to reduce,
the finance minister talks about the fact that he prefers to underpromise and overdeliver. And so even though he has projected a growth rate of 4.3% or so, he would do everything possible to make sure that he achieves much more than that. So I get the point you're making, that these are rough estimates, but it tells us what his intentions are. And I'm telling you that to bring a bit more clarity on what his intentions are, he says, yes, it's 4.3, but he's asking Ghanaians to trust him that he'll do more.
So there's this Chinese proverb that says that your action is so loud that I cannot hear your voice.
Okay.
So yes, you are saying one thing, but the practical things that will lead you there is contrary. In any case, let's look at budget allocation in Ministry of Finance, Agriculture, for us to overall have a sense of what the government wants to do. The budgetary allocation for 2024, previous year, was around 490 million Ghana cedis.
Okay, now before you get there,
yes,
it's just a bit about the growth rate.
Yes.
Which was the previous administration posted 5.7, which is factually inaccurate. Factually accurate, actually, it's 5.7. You're right.
Yes.
But then again, the counter argument is that this 5.7 growth rate we're talking about is on the back of the extractive sector. And here we're talking mining. And then even within the mining, we're talking 50% galamsey, as the finance minister said, and then 50% legal mining.
Okay.
And it is the type of growth that does not throw up jobs. And that's why a lot of Ghanaians are complaining about joblessness.
Okay.
Because it is not the type of growth as Ghanaians we should be excited about. But of course, he also talks about the fact that, yes, the digital economy has played a role in this, and also the services sector as well, and then, of course, the construction sector. But generally speaking, the mining sector really is the big deal.
Yes, I agree. And the mining sector, you shouldn't forget that we have small-scale miners there that also employing a number of people. And the government, this administration, because of the prospect in there, has levied some. Has put some levy in there, right? Because there's prospect there,
right?
You know, so in as much as it's coming from the mining sector, it's also a sector that supports employment and also support government revenue generation.
Okay.
So it's not the case that if it's coming from mining, it is bad. And in any case, if we look at the sector growth, you know, in 2024, I'm speaking from the budget, the figure that were put out. Industry contributed around 7.1%, which
in 2024, are you talking first quarter, second, third, fourth quarter?
The
you mean in the entire year?
The entire year.
Okay.
The entire year.
Okay.
You know, the entire year. So mining overall was around 19.1, shows the contribution within the industry. Service was around 5.9, and agriculture was about 2.8. You see, I was going to the agriculture to tell you the funding in that sector or in that ministry. If we look at the budget allocation in the Ministry of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry, which is around 490 million previous year, and this particular period, it was reduced, in the region of 26 million, which means that in the budget allocation, there's about minus 5% reduction, you know. So if on one hand, you are telling us that you are going to do more in agriculture, and previous budget, which was more than yours, delivered about 2.8, except we want to say that the funding allocated in previous administration could not deliver the expected output. But you are reducing the budget allocation. On one hand, you are telling us you are going to produce more food. You are going to support agribusiness. The budget allocation doesn't support what is the expected narrative that has been put out there. So
the government says there's been a lot of waste in terms of expenditure in the agriculture sector. They've talked about planting for food and jobs, rearing for food and jobs. And they have, in fact, in opposition, they had consistently talked about value for money.
Yes.
So perhaps that may explain why this time round there's there is lesser funding, but the government will tell you they will produce or they will post.
Moro, if I may,
sure, please go ahead.
So yes, that's why I made that point.
Okay.
That if we're reducing the budget allocation, if that allocation, I'm holding all factors constant. Let's assume there was waste, so you cut down.
Yes.
And you are telling us that you are going to deliver a certain growth. I was expecting that there should be more allocation to that, because you see, we are in a country where we usually talk about general inflation, but food inflation has been one of the highest. Currently, as we have inflation around 23%, food inflation is flying around 28%. So we need more investment in there to support agriculture or crop production in order to be able to produce more to make food price inflation come down.
Okay.
If we miss that, we may see general inflation falling, but food inflation will still be high. So we need to find a way to address that. Okay. And you see, the agriculture also employ one of the highest number of people in our country. So it needs considerable support, and I didn't see the budget addressing it. Let me touch on tax mobilization. You see, I was expecting that there should be creativity in terms of restructuring Ghana Revenue Authority in taxing or trying to get some revenue from the digital economy. One of the good things that has been done is e-levy, which is gone. If we don't get revenue mobilization right, even all the reduced targets that have been put into the budget will be mixed, because the revenue mobilization will influence our debt levels, whether we'll borrow even local or external. If we decide to go external, it will have exchange rate implications, and exchange rate implication will also come back affecting our interest rate and our inflation. Good. So if we miss domestic revenue mobilization, we have missed big time. I didn't see much of ambition to raise more revenue from the domestic economy. Why am I saying that? In 2022, domestic tax mobilization was around 54 billion Ghana cedis. Then in 2023, it doubled to, it was 74 billion Ghana cedis. Then it came to 113 billion Ghana cedis in 2020. By 2024, we've been told per this budget that we are doing around 153 billion Ghana cedis. So you can see that consistently, the revenue mobilization have been going up. Yes, we can talk about those nuisance, so-called nuisance taxes, but they didn't bring us much. Let's say together was about over 4 billion, of between 4 to 5 billion. If we take that one out, we are still doing quite well, around 150 billion. What it means is that there has been some approach to widen the net, the tax net, okay, to bring in other people to pay tax. I didn't see that. This is what I was expecting the government to do. Now, e-levy is gone out. A lot of people will be using digital platforms. The fact that the previous administration might have done something which may not be consistent with your approach does not mean you should throw everything away. One of the things I expected them to do was to bring incentive to the digital space. E-levy gone, that is one incentive. Number two, you should bring what they were the previous administration talked about a credit scoring system. That there should be incentive for me to pay somebody with mobile money, to pay my utility with mobile money. In that case, a huge number of informal sector who are earning decent income, who are not paying taxes, we can track their revenue or their income, and we can ask them to pay an appropriate tax. Our biggest problem is that we are unable to locate or trace or identify the income of the informal sector. But thankfully, the previous government has completed the ecosystem in the digital sector. Ghana card linked to your mobile money, linked to your bank account, being your tax identification number. So if the mobile money is gone, if the e-levy is gone, and now more people are going to use it, why don't we restructure the GRA to be able to monitor and look at the inflows, of the informal sector, so that they can pay a reasonable amount of tax, and using the credit scoring system, that if we are able to use and you can be identified, your source of income can be identified, your credit scoring system will go up, and it will ease access or to promote accessing credit in the financial sector or in financial institutions.
No, bear with me. Can I please go around a bit? Because
Yes.
Prof and Co are still on. So just let them also give their preliminary thoughts, and then I'll come back to you for your
That's
concluding
fine.
remarks before you can take leave of us. Now,
Yes.
Doc would have to take leave of us because he's joining. He has some other engagement elsewhere. Let me put it that way. Professor Lord Mensah, what would you also say would be your general feeling and your general thoughts about this budget? Hello, Prof. Hello?
I'm on here.
Yes,
I'm
Prof.
on here. I'm on
Yes.
here.
So,
sorry.
your general thoughts
I
about
have
the
to
budget.
unmute myself.
Okay.
Yes. Can you hear me, please?
I can hear you. Yes, one of your students is here.
I know, right? Yes, that's my PhD student, my former PhD student. He's been doing justice with the numbers, and I'm happy for him.
Right.
But then let's appreciate, what budget entails and the objective of a budget.
Okay.
You see, when we look at a budget, you're talking about expenditure and then revenue generation and how you can match up your expenditure with, your revenue. And basically, that is the essence of, every budget. But then, of course, no country can live with its means, and especially when there is, prospect for growth. And a country like Ghana exhibits, such, trait. So effectively, I'm always expecting that we're going to read a budget. Obviously, that budget will come with a deficit. But then we also have to appreciate the ingenuity that goes on with, removal of some taxes that tends to choke, the economy through businesses and all those. We all know very well that, the impact or the pass-through effect of, taxes is increase in price. And to the point where we were recording inflation of about 54%, clearly tells you that, yes, indeed, the taxes were not really, helping. Talking about the e-levy and then the other nuisance, so-called nuisance, taxes. And the businesses made it clear from all the surveys reports that came out. And so, for me, I think, the budget clearly brings out the ingenuity of removing some taxes and then also filling it in. But then also, let's appreciate that when you remove tax, it does not necessarily come as a cost to the economy. In some cases, you may want to remove the taxes to boost consumption. So, for instance, when you talk about the betting tax, at the end of the day, when you remove those taxes, the disposable income, that these young ones get from betting tends to go up. And when it goes up, obviously, will tend to boost their consumption. Now, when they consume, there are so many means that government, taxes consumption activities within the economy, which the same money that has been lost by the government through removal of these taxes can be, replaced. Let's also look at how the minister, indicated, or the engineering that, he preferred, to fill in these gaps. He made mention of available funds of about, looking at 70-something million, 6% of, tax revenue that is collected to be available for, tax refund. But then he says he's going to reduce this to 4%. And that will make room for about 3.8 billion to fill in or to neutralize the effect of the e-levy and then the betting tax on the economy. Again, he made mention of, our natural resource rent, right? That is hovering around 14% to our GDP. And if I talk about natural resource rent, what I mean is, the cost of producing a natural resource like gold, and then the revenue that you generate from it. That is the difference between that. So that's more or less indirectly a profit to the mining institutions. And we've had economy, and I like my former PhD student, Dr. Boachi. He's a very good student, mentioning that, look, the industry sector was driving the growth of the economy. Yes, we do appreciate that. But then we also need to understand that the industry sector that was driving the growth of the economy was, mainly mining and quarrying. And mining and quarrying, if you look at the employment ability of this sector, it's quite minimal. You ask yourself how many Ghanaians, will be able to get employment from this sector. And if you relate that to what we are getting from the mining sector in terms of, taxes, we are getting only about 1% to, GDP. So the difference is so huge, and that tells you that investors in those sectors, I'm talking about large-scale mining and all those, are making, more money than the state is getting from them. And so effectively, from the innovation that the minister wants to prefer, he's saying that he's going to move this 1% to GDP to 3% to ensure that at least we get, quite a substantive portion of the 14% to GDP, natural resource rents that, those mining, companies are making. So from where I sit, this is, kind of engineering. And we should also appreciate that taxes is about finding an optimum level of how you can generate your revenue at the same time, your expenditure allocations to ensure that you don't choke businesses, and then at the same time, government can go on by generating the necessary revenue. So if you have tax handles, right, that businesses are complaining, citizens are complaining, that the economy is not being felt as it's supposed to be, the kind of taxes you have is more or less reducing disposable income, which in the long run bounces back to affect the economy. Because if you slap the taxes and citizens and businesses are consuming all their disposable income without savings, how would the government get money for development? Because government, also borrows from the same market that, the other two economic agents talking about businesses and individuals also play. So from where I said, the finance minister's budget clearly put out, giving us the signal that the economy was highly concentrated and heated in a certain space, which was not necessarily building up into the ordinary man's doorstep, and therefore he's trying to find a way to move, those, activities to the ordinary man's doorstep, and that is why we see, that kind of removal of taxes. Now, if you talk about the various allocations that has been done over the past years across, the total expenditure that we intend to spend on, and then looking at agriculture, looking at, information ministry and all those. I picked these two because they are the extreme. You ask yourself, what is going to be the priority of a government? We have a statistical service that reads budget, and within the budget, reads report every now and then. And within the report, there's all indication that food inflation has been the main, driver of our inflation numbers. And clearly, for the first time, if you look at from 2018 all the way down to 2024, if you look at allocations, if you're talking about agriculture, I would advise my a friend, and then at the same time my former student, that he should look at what goes into fisheries and quarries as well, because it forms part of agriculture. When you put the two together, I think the current administration has allocated a lot into agriculture, and for me, we should expect more. And then also looking at the expenditure cut that came out, that the government has not cut down expenditure. If you're going by the actual budget that was read, not the summary one, clearly you will see that the provisional outturn for 2024 on our expenditure lines is about 279 billion. I mean, clearly, if the current administration in 2025 is saying that they're going to spend, 268, I mean, it tells you that, look, there is that kind of, a break that is being put on our expenditure. Because if I look at from 2018 all the way to 2024, every year on the average, our expenditure increases by 15 billion. So it tells you that yes, indeed, we've been increasing. I said on the average, we increase our expenditure by 15 billion. That tells you that yes, every year we increase, our expenditure. But then this year alone, if you are going by the appropriation numbers, okay, not the the budget, the provisional outturn, it will tell you that yes, indeed, we have reduced, budget, we have reduced our expenditure. And again, if you go into the general budget itself, the minister gave a signal that last year, and it's there, it's in one of the tables. I mean, last year we did expenditure to GDP. You see, you don't have to appreciate the expenditure until you relate it to the economic output of the country. Because whatever you generate, okay, you are going to spend from it. So last year, which was 2024, we did around 23.7%. And this year, he intends to do 19.2. I mean, for me, I see this to be more or less an economy that was on top speed, and for the minister to come in to put in some bricks, right? And then get to know the kind of possible allocations that he can do to ensure that businesses can run, at the same time, government machinery can run. And clearly, if you look at the projections that have been made, and then also the signals on the grounds, looking at the way the interest rate structures within the economy are faring, it tells you that over time, the government can even go to the bond market. I mean, I'm talking about the local bond market to raise, money for long-term projects. You cannot talk about economy that is doing well when all your financing sources has been limited to treasury bills locally. It doesn't make sense. The yield curve within the treasury bill space is just recently that, has, dropped down completely. We're talking about, interest rate used to be around 28% and all those. How would the private man, compete with the government on the same market when the government can offer 28% on, treasury bills, and the private man can also offer, about 35%, 45% on what? Loans that they can take from bank. It's not possible. All the monies will drive to the government. And if you look at the happenings recently, in the past, few months, you can see that a lot of monies are being bidded for the treasury bills, but the government has been rejecting them. One way or the other, there is a supply, but there's no demand, and therefore prices has what? Dropped. And so effectively a price, which is the interest rate on the treasury bills, has dropped. And that tells you that yes, fine, government has been raising money for short-term activities, but in the end, if government needs money for long-term, the extensions of the T-bills that has been rejected, I mean, with the confidence that the government has posed in terms of their economic management, in terms of reading a conserved budget, a budget that more or less reduces the speed that our expenditure lines and then our revenue generation was moving. I call it a heated economy. The confidence will grow and people will start, moving their funds into the medium term. And that is what the economy needs. This economy cannot be financed solely by treasury bills. So if we have a government that one way or the other has put up some ingenuity to ensure that there is, kind of revenue generation within the government space, at the same time, citizens can have their consumption smoothly running, and then also bring interest rate down to the point where we can, have what we call it.
Okay, Prof.
The private sector can easily access funds from the, the market. Very, very important. And when we talk about job creation, we shouldn't look at job creation as only the sole responsibility of the government. I believe in, a government that will ensure that the economic fundamentals get on right, having a low inflation, seem to have this, price stability, bring interest rate down. The private man will start building up its business. By growing the business, they will need labor. So the private man will also be on the market to borrow. No. And then also, let's not also look so much with for the 24-hour economy to be concentrated within the bosom of the government. Government can provide the necessary space that the private man can enroll within the 24-hour economy policy. So I don't think we can look at this budget as a budget that has nothing to offer. For me, it's a budget that has come to reduce the speed at which this economy was running. And for me, it's a budget that at the end of the day can create,
Prof, if you can answer this question just 30 seconds, because I know you have to go. Dr. Eric Boachi would also have to leave us. He has other engagement. But he talks about the fact that this budget, in the very nature of it, looks very contractionary, and that the government appears to be running a contractionary fiscal policy. And we know what it does. Or you mean it is contractionary in nature and not expansionary, because expansionary would mean that, would then spend a bit more and stimulate growth and so on. Just briefly, do you agree that it is contractionary in nature?
I don't agree. You see, you're running an economy, and the economy's dynamics is being driven by one sector, which is mining and quarrying. Mining and quarrying is not employing enough, right? And again, if you talk about expansionary economy, we really have to be careful. We don't have to be looking at it from just the GDP output. We have to look at it from the perspective of interest rate structures again. Okay. If interest rate comes down and businesses can borrow, right, have access to funds, it's more expansionary. We look at it from, more being expansionary than just looking at, the GDP growth numbers to indicate, growth. Right. Because you may have an economy that is growing, but that is not inclusive. Okay. All right. Again, the finance minister looks at the way he's trying to push some taxes to the mining sector, which are driving the growth. And you see, there's something we call tax shock. When you place, taxes on sectors that are doing very well, it's really going to impact on after-tax profit. And at the end of the day, they're going to, have an output that will go down a bit. But I get the objective and the sense of how the finance minister wants to reposition the economy. He wants to reposition the economy in such a way that in the long term, we can have growth, but the growth is well distributed across the various sectors. And what normally happens is that you look at where the economy is doing well, slap in some taxes so that you use it to fuel in where the economy is not doing well. And that is what I see in this budget.
All right, Prof. I want to thank you so very much because we're just about to end our conversation on the economy on this, because we can't exhaust everything. It's a voluminous budget. We'll have to keep looking at the themes as we go.
I would have been happy for us to get more time on this.
Yeah, I know. No.
Bro, let me just come in. I agree with my professor on many things.
On many things, okay.
On many things, but I will touch on some few things.
Right.
Then we will go.
And then you take leave of us.
Okay. Number one. When we talk about he mentioned that the agriculture
expenditure
and expenditure and fisheries, they are segmented, and if with your kind permission, Ministry of Food and Agriculture in 2024 budget item was 2.39 billion. In 2025, it is 1.56 billion. Ministry of Fisheries and Agriculture 148 million in 2024, 139. So it isn't the case that when we add fisheries to agriculture, it will be more. These are segregated or separated items. So whichever item you take, the government's approach is to reduce it. Whether previously there was efficient or inefficient, that is not a discussion we are focusing on holding all other factors constant. We are talking about the nominal projection. So right on the word go, the projected value in 2025 is less. We can go into the other issues and talk about inefficiencies. Secondly, now, I said earlier that there is a contractional growth approach. Prof will agree with me that a key indicator, please, can you hold, I think he has the right to answer for himself.
Please go ahead.
He will.
Yeah, please go ahead.
At least hear me out. Okay. Then he will agree with me. He will agree with me that when you are running a contractional policy, a growth approach, the positive effect is that inflation will drive down. The yield curve, as he mentioned, will go down. And that's exactly what we are saying, that these indicators are going down. Now, you cannot take these measures, then expect to wake up one day that the economy will rebound or economy will grow. So you have to look at the expected outturn, which I have mentioned or stated in the budget, that per every sector, or when you take industry, the service sector, the approach is to contract. And Prof, you see, he said contraction in a different way. What he said that the minister or the government came to press the brake. That is, you are contracting. That's why I said he will agree with me in that sense. But it does not necessarily mean that if we are going contractional approach is bad or is good. But you should know the pros and cons and be prepared for it. Number one clear thing that we should prepare as a country is that unemployment is going to go up per this approach that we are taking. Because when you are cutting down certain expenditure and all that, we are going to expect, it is economics 101. You see, when you take one, the principles are such that when you take one,
please allow him.
When you take one approach, yes, there is an effect. There's a cause and effect. So we are just saying that the trajectory that the government is going, yes, yield curve is going to come down. It will increase investors' confidence and all that. But the outturn is that we are going to see a lot of unemployment in the coming future.
Okay.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, Dr. Eric. Prof, you want to come in quickly before I bring in the...
Eric knows he knows I would definitely react.
Please do. Yeah, briefly.
Yes, so clearly he has to really look into the expansionary approach and then the what do we call it, the GDP numbers very well. If you bring the yield curve down, obviously, unless you're looking at it as an economy that is wholly owned by government, we have the private sector as well. If interest rate comes down, access to funding, becomes easier. And we know very well that the private sector employs, that he gave an example of agri sector. The agri sector, the employment that is created there is purely private. So if you keep interest rates high with your economic activities and the private man cannot have access to funds, how do you move the economy from the corridors of government to the private sector? As we speak now, we have an economy that has been completely hijacked by the government. It's a government that can comfortably borrow from the market and comfortably do whatever they want to do with people's investment. Okay. And so I want a situation where interest rate comes down, the private man has access to funds, private man expands, they expand with labor, and we see employment shifted from the government books. Look at compensation and salaries and compensation as a percentage of our allocations. So huge. Government cannot continue to carry this burden. Okay. And we know very well what has brought us to this level of thinking about going to IMF to solve our debt problem. So okay, it's a projection that we need. We need the interest rate to come down to ensure that access to funding gets to the private man as well.
All right.
Thank you,
Prof. If you look at the figures, when private man was not getting access to funding in previous administration, manufacturing, which we want to improve, did around 3.9. Then now you are telling us that private man is going to get access to funding, and manufacturing is expected to grow at 4%. It's contradictory. That is a clear case I want to show. So we can talk about what sounds nice, that, oh, private person is going to get a business. But when we look at the numbers that you have projected, what you are saying does not support. That's clearly what we want to put across. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Eric Washiyadom. Is a lecturer with UPSA. And Prof, please hang in there. Let me take this breather. We will come back. Mr. Fred Agbanyo has a quick thought to share, and then also Mr. Kwesi Kwarteng, and then you can wrap it all up because we need to move on and talk about the matter of George Akufo Dampare. Yeah, so please stay with us. This is Inside Pages.
Ghana funi aji efi say ya your local spices na ya fra dia ya sankofa natural spice me de gumi jollof mu me mi still ahodoma e ma ne dance
Stanley the barbecue the go on
sankofa natural spices and one e be use 100% natural said the happen no
adofo mamu huge mistake sankofa natural spices the
FDA ejodi nkratu yatu.
You the answer to my prayers. You're with me everywhere. You're my angel, miracle. You're all I need tonight. Give me shelter from the rain. You breathe life in me again. You're my angel, miracle. You're all I need to know. Tonight.
Step up with DSTV and we'll show up by giving you more incredible entertainment.
Going to have a little fun.
Upgrade your subscription between the 13th of January and the 31st of March and get an even higher package for a whole month on us.
Buckle up, here we go.
There's nothing better than putting a little bit in but getting a lot out.
Time to boost some office morale.
Incredible!
If you want to build a future, you gotta know what you want.
Step up and we'll show up on your home of entertainment, DSTV.
I'm a brand manager. Of course, I accept only quality and affordable printed souvenirs for my promotional campaigns.
I'm the head of academic affairs of a very important institution in Ghana. Of course, we only deal with quality, reliable printing companies for our institution's printing materials. I'm talking about appointed time printing.
Appointed Time Printings. We take pride in our extensive print scope that transform your ideas into captivating visual masterpieces. We delve into the core objectives and vision of each print project. Precision printing is at the heart of our printing process as we meet your tight deadlines. Our rigorous inspection, color verification, and overall printing excellence are assured. 20 years of printing excellence. It's always a pleasure working with you to create a vibrant, dazzling printing experience that gives you a masterpiece. Appointed Time Printing, your world of quality and affordable printing.
You're live on Metro Television and you're live on Inside Pages on a Metro Television. It airs from 8 to 10. And the topic under discussion this morning is about the budget presentation by the Finance Minister, Dr. Kasila Toforsi. And everybody's sharing their perspective on what they make of the budget.
Dr. Eric Boachi-Adom, who is a lecturer in business administration, finance and economics at UPSA, has had his take. He's had to leave us because he has other engagement elsewhere. But Professor Lord Mensah is still with us. He's a professor of economics and finance, University of Ghana Business School, that's University of Ghana, Legon. And also, the Honorable Fred Agbanyo is here, MP for Guan, and also Kwesi Kwarteng, who is a member of the MPP's communications team. Now, we'll try and wrap this thing up as quickly as we can, because we need to look at the new sheriff in town, Christian Tete Yohono, and the incidents in the lead up to his appointment as the new Inspector General of Police. Honorable Fred Agbanyo, I don't know whether you still have something to say after listening to everything else that the academics have been saying.
But you see, Mauro, I think I have to commend you that you brought the teacher and the students on the platform. And the teacher has proven that I impacted the knowledge that you have come to to display. And maybe, just maybe, as he rightly said, you need to go back and look at some of the theories and understand what you probably well.
Why are you saying
Otherwise, you see, we can come and sit on sets and do all the quantitative analysis of our economy for the budget and refuse to pay attention to the qualitative aspect of it, and then go back home clapping for ourselves that we have done a good job. I now not pretend that we are in a lecture hall where I want to impress my lecturer, and so let me speak economics. When the majority of the people who are watching us, the economics they understand is when they put their hands in their pockets, what they see and what they feel. The young man that has finished school, has been in the house for several years, has no job to do. The boy and the girl who go out there to go and do betting. And when they put their money in, the government takes part of it. Meanwhile, when they don't gain, the government doesn't cushion them. For them, they are the reason we are commenting about this budget. And so I will not, my hard-working doctor, he has set his quantitative analysis. Because really, I was listening to him and I was wondering, to say that you are going to pick the figures, just the budgetary allocations for 2024 and 2025, and by that you have drawn a conclusion that the economy of old is better than the economy you are going to have in 2025. For me, it beats my mind. Because, see, simple analogy. It's just like saying that you give a caterer 1,000 Ghana cedis to prepare food for 20 people. And then she prepared the food, and the food didn't go around the 20 people, only about 17 people got the food to eat. And somebody else comes and said, you know what? I don't need 100 Ghana cedis to prepare food for 20 people.
You mean I don't need 1,000 Ghana cedis?
1,000 Ghana cedis to prepare food for 20 people. And that, you just give me 80 Ghana cedis. I'll still be able to feed the 20 people. Then you argue that no, because they have reduced the amount they are giving to person B, it means the person A did far better, or that this person cannot feed the 20 people. Without looking at the issue of efficiency and inefficiency. And that somebody can have these 100 Ghana cedis, who is supposed to feed 20 people, and for whatever reason, he will divide the money into two, put half in his pocket, and take half to the market, and come and prepare the soup and pour more water than pepper and everything else. And I know they said, I've served you food. Now, let's come to the substantive issues. In the agriculture sector and at the MPP, mention one intervention that they implemented, that today we can go back and say that this is the project, this is the program, and this is how it is impacting this economy. They mentioned planting for food and agriculture. Where are the farms? How many employment have they changed as a result of that particular program that they introduced? I remember at a point, they went around communities to reach out people. They are going to set up fish ponds for them. They'll bring the fingerlings. They'll bring the feed for them. Where are the fish ponds? Where are the fishes that we've produced? And so the mere fact that on paper and in reality you have committed huge sums of amount of money into a project, and the money didn't even end up in the implementation process, they didn't even turn out any positive outcome, does not mean that you have done better at all. Now, I listened to my brother Kwarteng saying that, when we talk about employment, we are only talking about betting. Who has said that on this platform? Has anybody said that betting is a form of employment? Unless, of course, he's not looking at the other things that we mentioned in our budget.
Okay.
That, for example, we said we are going to invest over 13 billion in the book, a big push. What is a big push supposed to do? It is supposed to create employment. You see, their understanding of employment is when they engage people and they are paying them 500 Ghana cedis every month, 600, 700. We are talking about permanent employment that we can give to people. That, for instance, if we inject 13 plus billion and we build an harbor, within that harbor engage people. They will engage accountants, they will engage every category of persons to work over there. And it's permanent employment. Like we do with the Tema port. When we build a new airport, the airport will employ permanent workers. Permanent, you understand the point I'm making? So for him to say that is the betting, he said, and he's even quoting a provision in the budget that said that we are going to freeze employment in the public sector. Why?
Okay.
We are operating under our IMF program.
All right.
And we are all saying that the only way we can employ people is to expand and open up the economy. If the economy is shrinking, how do you continue to pile up additional workforce?
All right.
Now, we know in this country that whichever way, people will go on retirement, people will go on pension. When they do, all such persons will be replaced. And so to make a categorical statement that employment has been free is very disingenuous. Okay. And you know the truth.
All
but
right.
of course, for the sake of the politicking,
Yeah.
we are going to churn out more employment. Of course, this government, employment creation is our main agenda. It's our main focus. Because as we run on the country campaign and engaging the young people, their major concern is issue of employment. And so the budget has been read, several aspects of it. It's all about employment creation.
Okay.
And so when we say we are going to do the Nkoko Nkete project, what are we going to do with it? If we can have about 100,000 young people and we teach them how to have raise poultry beds, and each one of them is getting 1,000 beds to manage, is that an employment they have created? Is he going to be working alone? Is he not going to apply other people to help him on that field? And so maybe they are not paying attention. The growth that is claiming that the growth that they got in 2024 was 5.70% was very good.
5.7.
5.7%. What drove that growth? Mining sector.
Yes.
And what? And a quarry. Go to the money sector, go and check even the money. 11.something billion that US dollars that we made from the sector. Majority of it coming from the Galamsey. The chunk of the money coming from the Galamsey.
Okay.
So is this suggesting that we should continue to promote the Galamsey? How many employment was the Galamsey able to churn out?
Okay. Let me take the concluding remarks of Kwesi, because he also has to leave us, and then we can go to and talk about George Ekufu Dampare.
Well, but let me just conclude that.
Please do.
If indeed the economy that we inherited was doing better,
okay,
Ghanaians wouldn't have shown the kind of revolt that they showed in the elections.
All right.
The people who determine that the economy is doing good or not is the people of this country. And the verdict is clear, is open, is there for all to see.
All right.
That the economy was not performing well. Ghanaians were struggling. Businesses closed down. Businesses relocated from this country. People were laid down.
Okay.
Companies were shut down. Look at the banking sector. The number of unemployment that you turn out as a result of a wicked, unthought through decision that you took that you are closing down banks. So please, allow us to manage this economy. Give us the space, and every eye will see what you will do with this economy.
Okay.
It's not about the quantum of money that we put inside that will eventually end up people's private pockets.
Oh.
No.
Kwesi? Hello, Kwesi, are you there?
Yes,
Yes, so what are your concluding remarks? Because we want to end this and move on.
I mean, in as much as you want to end, I hope I'm giving the same time that he was giving and also allowed to flow. First of all, let me state that I don't think it is proper and ethical for any of the panelists to prorate and mark the presentation of others. Trying to gag professor against his student, I don't think it was the best. I was also particularly impressed about the presentation that was made by Doc. And I felt it was disingenuous for him to have even attempted a teacher to student comparison. I mean, some students do better than the teachers, but that's not within this context. Secondly, if you recall, President John Dramani Mahama during the campaign season lamented about the alarming rate of unemployment in this country. I mean, even to the extent of offering solutions and making promises that his government is going to create employment. You see, for emphasis sake, if we want to refer to what was the nomenclature in the budget, they spoke about a net freeze on employment. I mean, for clarity, if we talk about net freeze of employment, essentially what it means is that only retirees are going to be replaced. So let it be on record that in your own budget, you are saying that within the public space, unless anybody retires, you are not going to replace anybody or employ anyone. It is in your own budget. So don't create a picture as though we are introducing something new and trying to play the semantics of it. Of course, I think the conversation should largely be on how you are going to expand the economy and get the private sector to participate in the employment of our youth. But within the public service, you have stated clearly that you have put a net freeze on employment, and that essentially means that until somebody retires, you are not going to employ anybody. Indeed, if you speak about the fact that this condition has been necessary because of the IMF that you inherited, who also inherited IMF, and we still recruited. So what are we talking about? I also want to draw your attention to some factual inconsistency in your own budget that you presented. One has to do with the creation of the Women's Bank, where you promised to set up a Women's Bank. We are all aware in this country that when we talk about Women's Bank or the creation of a bank, the minimum capital requirement from Bank of Ghana is 400 million Ghana cedis. Yes, so you allocate 51 million Ghana cedis. Interestingly, you allocate 78 million to government's communication machinery in one person's office, Felix Ofuzukache's office. So it questions your commitment in setting up such a bank. You should give us better and further particulars on which kind of bank that you are going to set up. That 51 million to set up a bank. Is it a rural bank or savings and loans company or what? At best, this can only be equated to what is happening at Maslow, where an institution will be disbursing loans or monies or some stipends to some SMEs and other individuals to also be able to help them to set up their business. But you cannot describe it as a bank because your own capital requirement and the money that you allocated to such institution clearly cannot suffice.
All right.
Again, let me briefly also touch on, briefly, let me touch on, other areas of interest. You see, fuel prices have gone up how many times since you came into power? Within a space of 3 months, within a space of 2 months, fuel prices has jumped almost 3 or 4 times. You failed to address it. It was something that you campaigned vehemently on before you came into office. Interestingly, even whilst we were having this presentation, if you recall, my line dropped. It was because I had done so until just now that the lights came back again. You also failed to address that one. On education, you promised within your budget that you are going to give a dedicated source of money. And that dedicated source of money, according to your manifesto, you claim you're going to use oil revenues. So how come the sudden switch to Get Fund? Whilst you already know that Get Fund has a dedicated statutory arrangement where it has to be used for infrastructure. So is the suggestion that now that you are going to now realign Get Fund money to the support of free SHS or the funding of free SHS, you are going to also abandon infrastructure. So I am just pointing to you that in your own budgetary statement, there are factual inconsistencies. You speak about 24-hour economy, the same 24-hour economy that you vehemently speak about and make it look like the game changer. You forget in your own budget to give a very detailed analysis, the money that you are allocating to the 24-hour economy, the jobs that they're going to create, the challenges and how
are we going to get opportunity to respond?
Because of time. Kwesi,
come again?
Kwesi, because of time.
Very well, I'll end here.
Let's end it here.
Moro, I'm ending. But I'm saying that in brief and in concluding, this government promised 273, they made 273 promises. If you divide 273 promises by the number of years that they are going to be in office, averagely they should be around 68 promises. Go through their manifesto. You realize that the number of promises that they are saying they're going to deliver is less than 15.
Okay.
So what becomes of the other promises? It clearly shows that this budget is structured to fail, and it's just a cosmetic budget designed to, for marketing purposes.
Kwesi Kwarteng, thank you so very much for your time. Kwesi Kwarteng is a member of the MPP's communications team. Now we're going to move on and talk about the issue about the IGP George Ekufu Damprai. That's our next conversation. But before we get on with that, we have some videos that we want to show you before we get on with that conversation.
As IGP comes at a time when the security landscape is rapidly evolving, traditional policing methods must be adapted to confront new and emerging threats and crimes. We face increasing incidents of violent crime, cybercrime, and fraud, as well as new forms of organized crime that demand sophisticated investigative techniques. Additionally, the global security environment presents fresh challenges, from terrorism to transnational criminal networks, which require strong intelligence gathering and proactive law enforcement. Ghanaians have high expectations of the police service, and rightly so. Our people look to you for protection. They want to see a police service that is not only professional and disciplined, but also one that is fair and just. They want to be reassured that when they report crimes, they will receive a swift and impartial response. They want to trust that the police service will act in their best interests, free from undue influence and without discrimination. To achieve this, IGP, your leadership must be rooted in integrity, discipline, and innovation. The Ghana Police Service must continue to reform itself to meet the needs of our ever-changing society. Intelligence-led policing, community engagement, and effective deployment of modern technology must be at the core of our law enforcement strategy. Our officers must be well-trained, well-equipped, and motivated to serve with excellence. One critical area that requires immediate attention is the relationship between the police service and the communities in which they serve. Public trust in law enforcement is essential. Without it, effective policing becomes difficult. The concept of community policing must be strengthened. The police must be seen not as an intimidating force, but as a partner in crime prevention, safety, and development.
Well, the newly sworn-in Inspector General of Police, Christian Tete Yohono, had to thank the President and promise him that he would rebrand and revolutionize the Ghana Police Service and would make it much, much more attractive, because his marching orders were to eradicate corruption and also make the police a people's institution. He says you do just that. But then DCOP George Shekufu Dampare himself then went ahead to issue a statement in sort of thanking the President for the opportunity that he's given him, and also thank the current President for his cordial relationship that he has enjoyed with him, and so on and so forth. So that it's a very long statement. We can't read all of that because time is not our best friend now. So joining us to have this conversation, it's the Honorable Fred Agbanyo, still here, a member of Parliament for the people of Guan, and also a man who you haven't seen in a while, and he that too was a government spokesperson on security and governance, but now he is a lecturer at the University of Ghana UPSA. He teaches business administration at UPSA. And the reason I had to talk about what he used to talk about before, so that we can properly put this into context, that he knows quite a bit about security and good governance. Pargrave Boachidankwa is the man I'm talking about. Pargrave Boachidankwa. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mauro.
Thank you so very much for
Thank
joining
you for
us
having
on
me.
Inside Pages. And of course, he's here representing the New Patriotic Party as well. Now, at some point, Adib Sani will join us to just give us his brief take on that. So, when you heard about the determination of his appointment of Dr. George Akuffo Dampare, what were your initial thoughts?
Well, a very good morning to you, and let me greet the Honorable. Congratulations. I hope Parliament is treating you well. Well, so I wasn't surprised that the President, John Dramani Mahama, has had a change in his security couple. You are aware that we practice an executive presidency. The Constitution gives the President an opportunity to appoint security couples that he can work with, and that's what we have had since this republic. When we came in 2017, Kudolo stayed in January and left in January, so Dampare has even stayed longer.
Comparatively.
Yeah. So let me first congratulate the new IGP, Mr. Christian Yohono, and also commend the Inspector General of Police, the immediate past, Dr. George Akuffo Dampare. I'm sure that during the discussions we would be able to look at some of the good things that he was able to implement during his tenure as IGP, and also look at some struggling moments that he had as well, and present a position where Yohono IGP steps into those shoes and also has his own drive and vision I've chanced upon some of the conversations that have been going on over the period. I've followed the leadership of Dr. George Akuffo-Dampare, and I can clearly tell you that he remains an institution that must be studied. And if you look at where he picked policing from, he's been one of the persons that has risen through the ranks from constable all throughout to become an IGP. Yohonu likewise as well. So they both have the institution of the Ghana Police at heart and clearly understand the various dispensations that they have gone through. And as I look at how crime has reduced, looked at police uniformity, looked at welfare of the police, looked at the e-clinic that has been set up, looked at regulation of PR, looked at the motorbikes that the police have in terms of visibility of the police, looked at the establishment of a lot more police stations across the length and breadth of this country, looked at the fact that he began the construction of new police stations with bricks. And the rationale behind that is that when people go into custody, it becomes very warm in there. And so if you see that police stations are being built with bricks, especially with the kind of weather that we have, it's a bit cold in there. And so if you look at the transformations that he has brought, a lot more institutional transformations. And having followed that journey for the past 3 years and 3 months, I could count not less than 30 significant policies that Dr. George Akuffo-Dampare has brought into the Ghana Police Service. But this is not new, and it's okay. It's what must be done by any president. He's changed all the security couples, and I don't have any reservations at all by it.
What do you make of the videos that were circulating following his removal and where we're seeing both civilians and police officers openly celebrating the change? This sort of jubilant reaction, people say, is a bit uncommon. We've never seen that before. What does it say? What do you make of it?
So Moro, from observation, I think that we'll need to do a lot more scientific research to be able to understand what is causing that. But really, from observation, every leader has a style, right? And so you would have people who, and I don't work within the Ghana Police Service, so I will not be able to say the facts as it is, but you hear words on the street, okay, about people who feel that maybe promotions have been done in a way that they didn't expect. People would either state that special promotions and special recruitments as well has been done in a way that they may not. But one must understand the dynamics of being an IGP. When you're an IGP, there are various stakes that are pulling at you. One, you have an executive presidency that is giving you some directions and some path that you need to follow. Two, you have your own internal regimes and internal policies that you want to implement. And I would want to be slow, really, on what I put out there. But one of the things that I can say is that there are over 40,000 police personnel, and the jubilations that we are seeing has very minimal percentage, maybe about a 0.1 or 0.001 percentage point in terms of the reactions. But subject to stating that, of course, maybe there are people that are happy that Christian Yohonu is now the IGP.
Some will say these are the people who were able to muster the courage to show it overtly.
Well, ideally, to be honest with you, I consider it as a threat, really.
Okay.
Yes, honestly, I consider it as a threat, the level of jubilations that centered around the removal. Because you're aware that Inspector General Dr. George Akuffo-Dampare had a lot of support at his announcement. You recall how there was a lot of unity and collaboration in Parliament. Everybody accepted that. The Ghanaian people accepted that because of his level of discipline. And if you deal with human beings, it's really very difficult, dealing with a human institution, much more a much disciplined institution, which is regimented. I mean, the police and all the security apparatus are regimented institutions. It's respect, it's order, it's command, and you obey. So people obviously don't want to be taken through certain processes of institutionalization. And I can tell that the level of excitement that we saw in the 10s and 50s, we couldn't count even more. That's why I'm saying that it's about a 0.01 percentage point of the reaction. But that cannot be discounted as well. But it tells you the level of discipline that Dr. George Akufo-Dampare had within that. It will be good for, and I'm sure that, I don't know Christian Yohonu up close, but I would be observing his leadership, and I'm very sure that he would be able to also maintain some level of high discipline and some very level of high regard. And he's had his charge already from the Commander-in-Chief, President John Dramani Mahama.
Fred, you campaigned on the promise of change to reset Ghana, which is to mean that what it is that we're doing in the past, you don't intend to do again. In any case, we've lived in this country where we've complained several times about the executive interference in the affairs of heads of security institutions, and we want them to attain a certain level of independence that enables them to arrest the A or B regardless of party coloration and so on. And so some say they were expecting the president of left, George Akufo-Dampare, who is largely seen as, being a neutral policeman. So why did you do this? Do you have any idea?
Well, anytime you are bringing about a change, one of the first things you want to do is to move people around and change people. You can relate to even a football team. When the team is not living up to expectation, you want to bring in a new coach. Once you bring in a new coach, the expectation is that every player will sit up and perform better than they were doing before. Oftentimes, we don't even change anybody in the playing team. They don't change anybody. Just coming with a new coach, things will change. And so once we have promised a change, we said we are resetting. And we have also put our ears down, nosed around to find what's happening in the security services. We noticed, we heard the morale is not at the level that one would have expected it to be. The morale was quite low in the security, especially in the police service. And so it was only fair and proper that you shift the top, you bring some changes so that people have more confidence to work in the system. You can hate him or like him. Dr. Dampare has come to do his bit. He will be remembered in this country. There are two faces to it. What the men that he should pretend over thinks about him, and how the general public views or thought about him. These are the challenge. From where we sit ordinarily, we will come to a conclusion that Dr. Dampare was an exceptional IGP. It was visible, it was all over the place, and you can say it was generally neutral. But when you get close and you speak to the men who work under him, do they also hold the same view? Do they also see him as such? It's a question for good reasons I don't want to answer on a platform like this. I hold a view, like we say in our traditional parlance, that once we are dead and gone, nobody speaks evil of the dead. But I think that there were a number of things I expected him to have done. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, he couldn't do it. I remember when he came into office, I think the very first month, a letter was sent to him direct from the presidency to investigate, the killings that took place in the elections. And he was supposed to have set up a committee to do that. So as we speak now, I don't know if any committee has been set up. I don't know if any investigation has been done. I don't know if any report has been submitted. And I think that was most unfortunate. We cannot blame him. Well, he must take responsibility by what's in charge. But there were a number of things that happened that ordinarily would have expected some proactiveness, but we didn't see it. But what's at this? There's something that I thought that having gotten the opportunity to talk about. There's a phenomenon that is creeping in that we need to check. Now, when you drive from Accra and you are going towards Volta region, and you cross the Adami Bridge, there's a place, I think it's bus storage facilities on your left. Some guys have positioned themselves there. They said they are national security operatives. When you get there, they are wearing canvas. Sometimes they are in singlets. They are holding AK-47. And at the spur of the moment, this person in front of you, a car, stopping you. You are unable to tell if it's an armed robber or a state security personnel who is stopping you.
You don't show any form of identification?
Unless, of course, you stop and you have the courage, you want to interrogate them before they will even tell you, I'm a national security.
But that's even risky.
That's risky. And so I don't know who is in charge. I don't think that is how we should deploy our national security operatives. Their work generally is undercover, right? If it comes to manning barriers and the rest, the people who are supposed to be doing that.
So clearly they are not one.
Yes, the people are supposed to be doing that. It's the police.
Yes.
And so somebody should pay attention to. I don't know why that is happening over there.
Okay.
Now, prior to the elections of
maybe you should bring it up in Parliament as well.
I will. Prior to the 2020 elections, suddenly we're told that some people wanted to attack that dummy bridge. And so quickly they brought some military over there. It's becoming a nuisance.
Okay.
You get to the same bridge, you see immigration officers, you see the police officers, you see military officers.
Okay.
And each one of them is trying to stop you and engage you. You don't know what they are doing over there. I don't think this secessionist, whatever it is that they brought there, was a creation by the government then to do whatever they want to do with it. Nobody is dividing this country into any places.
Okay.
I think we should remove. And the barrier that they have placed in Japan Township is a nuisance.
Okay.
It's creating unnecessary travel, especially on Fridays.
All right.
We don't think that things needs to be there. Okay. So once again, let me commend Mr. Yohunu.
You know him personally?
I know him from a distance. Okay. Not really. I want to congratulate him. The good news is that he has also risen through the ranks. He's been the police served for 40 good years. My understanding is that all things being equal, should be going on retirement, I'm sure, by the close of this particular year. Let him also leave a mark. Let all of us cooperate with him. There are a number of things. The police service, for the past almost 8 years, when it comes to recruitment in the service, either two, you see adverts in the dailies that they are recruiting people. This time around, before you say, Jack, people have passed out. We're told people went for training for 1 month, 2 months. All manner of allegations were made. Okay. And so you have people who are, no, I don't know, but I don't know how all these things happen.
That you have huge expectations of it.
We have seen people, even per their own place, the height that you need to attain to be able to go there. It's just people on the street, and you ask yourself, so really, are they also 5.7?
I thought you were going to talk about police people with beard.
And this another thing they have introduced. Police people with beard, they are wearing earrings. Please, if you want to do undercover operative, don't let us know them.
Right.
But you go to the police headquarters and see these bearded men and rasta hair and earring wearing.
I'll just give a minute.
It is an eyesore, and I think
what is
that department must be disbanded immediately.
Okay.
If they want to put them undercover, send them to be and I send them to national security.
Okay.
Let them operate quietly.
Right.
We don't want to see them around with AK-47 with earrings and this rasta hair and wearing some goggles, glasses.
In just a minute. Unfortunately, that time is up. Time has never been our good friend. But what are your expectations of Chris Yohunu?
Well, so clearly we are in a very volatile sub-region.
Right.
I've followed that President John Dramani Mahama has gone to Mali, he's gone to Niger, he's gone to Burkina Faso, trying to understand what is going on and also try to bring them and re-engage back into ECOWAS. And so for me, I think that the continued peace and security that we have in the country internally should be his primus. He should continually clamp down crime. Road users, traffic users should be continually disciplined, a lot more discipline within the police. What we know of the police in years past that has been cleaned up should be sustained, and we would wish him the best, very clearly. But also to just pick on some of the things that the Honorable Adbenyo was talking about, to suggest for a particular unit to be disbanded is a clear misunderstanding of the security architecture. Because you see, what happens within the security architecture is entirely very different, and so I would encourage you to maybe have a closer look at it, have a clearer understanding of why there are teams in that area.
Unit is not good. I'm saying that then they should not be in the public view.
Okay. Because you met them. You met them at the police headquarters.
All right. Sometimes you move them around.
No, you met them at the police headquarters.
All right. Let me thank the honorable Fred. Let me thank the honorable. Yes. The time is up. Unfortunately, let me thank the honorable Fred Agbenyo for his time. He's the member of parliament for the Guan constituency. Paul Gribwachi Dankwa is a lecturer, Department of Business Administration, UPSA. We couldn't speak to Adib Sani because of time factor. I also want to thank my earlier guest. A big thanks to, it's very important. Welfare needs. That's fine. Okay. Thanks for watching another edition of Inside Pages. My name is Audumor. Thanks for the production team. They've done a yeoman's job. It's a tall list. I don't want to go through it. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.
More than 80% of global trade is carried by sea. Most of the products we consume daily travel through ports, making them a key link in the global supply chain. The Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority is committed to ensuring the enhancement, resilience and sustainability of port infrastructure and maritime trade. Get to know which vessel is bringing your goods, how much duty you are required to pay and how quickly you can clear your goods from the ports of Ghana. We ask the relevant questions and elicit responses from the appropriate authorities. We interact with you via our social media platforms and put your queries across to the expert. Iron Port shows this and every Sunday live on Measure TV at 5:30 p.m. Iron Port is proudly brought to you by and powered by the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. Iron Port, transparency in doing business and building a nation.
In today's interconnected and interdependent world, nations and international businesses are increasingly appreciating the need to foster greater trade relations.
Get the inside views, vital information, trends and analysis on emerging trade giants in Ghana and beyond. International Trade Focus, the global television trade showcase, transcending barriers in creativity and innovation.
International Trade Focus has been developed to serve as your reliable platform for international business connections and trade events. Join me and Aspio as I bring you a whole menu of international trade activities.
International Trade Focus, your timely business hub. International Trade Focus is brought to you by GOL, ADB, Pediastic Valley Resorts and Public Elegance. International Trade Focus is brought to you by GOL, ADB, Pediastic Valley Resorts and Public Elegance.
Metro TV presents a new dating reality show.
Tell me, what's the favorite part of my body and can you describe it with a word?
Table of Love.
Do you have what it takes to make it to the table of love?
My first heartbreak. Let me tell you. So I went somewhere to sit and I met goats chewing grass. I sat right in front of the goat and I asked it, have you ever felt heartbroken before?
Touching, romancing, you take me there, I take you there.
If you expect me to be an angel in your life, you must first create heaven for me. Angels don't live in hell.
Many girls say touching when you kiss me on the forehead, please. For me, when money touches my palm, I become so well.
Celebrating hard work, commitment, dedication, and impact. The Metro Sports Awards 8 in 8 seeks to identify and reward the 8 most impactful sports personalities the last 8 years. Visit our website and all social media platforms to cast your votes. The nominees are Honorable Isaac Esiama, former sports minister. Honorable Mustafa Yusuf, former sports minister. Dr. Ben Asante, President, Ghana Hockey Federation and former CEO, Ghana Gas. Robert Tetekoma, CEO, Wembley Sports Construction. Herbert Mensah, President, African Rugby Union. Dr. Kwamichi, Director, Nations FC and former board chairman, Asante Kotoko. Moses Ama, President, Mediama Sporting Club. Dr. Richard Incenture, President, Samatex FC. Dr. Randy Abe, GFA ESCO member and President, Heart of Lions Football Club. Abdul Karim Zito, Coach, Dreams FC. Samuel Techi, Olympic medalist, Tokyo 2020. Alexander Abebio, Boffa Kwatano, and DBB United. Charles Osei Esibe, President, Ghana and Africa Arm Wrestling. Dr. Kweku Ofosu Asai, LOC Chairman, African Games 2023. Samson Dini, President, Ghana and African Parliamentary. Dr. Daniel Macaulay, Executive Chairman, Magdan Group. The award ceremony is scheduled for Saturday 29th March 2025 at the Eldon Studios, North Range. Metro Sports Awards, celebrating impact to inspire generations. The Metro Sports Awards, inspired by Ignite Media.
Join the Good Life Devotion with Dr. David Findon on this channel to receive biblically authoritative teachings which will usher you into exhibiting the divine life here on earth. The Good Life Devotion shows every Monday to Friday from 11 to 11:30 p.m. Don't miss the special weekend edition on Saturdays and Sundays at 10 p.m. Life is good. Enjoy.
Excuse me, sir.
Hello.
Please, next time, can you put it in a dustbin?
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'll not do that again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Girl, how are you? I've really missed you. I've missed you too.
So fabulous.
I know, right? Thank you. Auntie Naya.
Yes, dear.
Uncle Kofi.
Yes, dear.
All you've been teaching me about sanitation, I've been teaching my friends at school, and it has been absolutely great.
Really? Wow. That's a great impact you're making now. Sure. Keep it up, girl.
Okay.
Sure.
Auntie Naya, I need to tell you something. If we want to be successful as a people, we need to be aware of the importance of sanitation.
That's true. That's true. You're right, Amma. You're right. That's true.
Naya, do you know sanitation is so important and crucial in our society?
Yes, Kofi, and I thank God for Kids Sanitation IQ, which you can also just say KSIQ. It is an important show that you don't need to miss it.
Kids Sanitation IQ. That's a great show. I understand the show has been designed for the kids to educate the public on some special sanitation categories.
I know, right? And I learned they will also educate the public on sanitation for environmental and community development.
I also understand they would educate the public on sanitation for educational development.
Wow.
Yeah.
Education, you say?
Oh, God.
Wow.
Right.
It is amazing. They also have sanitation for health development.
Oh, health
and
development.
Sanitation for corporate.
Corporate and health, Nana.
Don't play.
This one will intrigue you. I understand this kit will educate the public on sanitation that benefits the needy.
The needy, you say?
Absolutely.
Wow.
It's amazing.
It is amazing.
Oh, God.
Don't miss this
You
show.
don't have to miss the Kids Sanitation IQ show.
In today's interconnected and interdependent world, nations and international businesses are increasingly appreciating the need to foster greater trade relations.
Get the inside views, vital information, trends and analysis on emerging trade giants in Ghana and beyond. International Trade Focus, the global television trade showcase, transcending barriers in creativity and innovation.
International Trade Focus has been developed to serve as your reliable platform for international business connections and trade events. Join me and Aspio as I bring you a whole menu of international trade activities.
International Trade Focus, your timely business hub. International Trade Focus is brought to you by GO, ADB, Pediatric Valley Resort and Public Elegance. International Trade Focus is brought to you by GO, ADB, Pediatric Valley Resort and Public Elegance.
More than 80% of global trade is carried by sea. Most of the products we consume daily travel through ports, making them a key link in the global supply chain. The Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority is committed to ensuring the enhancement, resilience and sustainability of port infrastructure and maritime trade. Get to know which vessel is bringing your goods, how much duty you are required to pay and how quickly you can clear your goods from the ports of Ghana. We ask the relevant questions and elicit responses from the appropriate authorities. We interact with you via our social media platforms and put your queries across to the expert. Iron Port shows this and every Sunday live on Measure TV at 5:30 p.m. Iron Port is proudly brought to you by and powered by the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. Iron Port, transparency in doing business and building a nation.
Good morning and welcome to Living Well. My name is Ethel Popolampo.